So the German numbers made easy. And let's start this whole thing with something light and a little test. And you write the answer into the chat if you know it. So the question is, what is every German's favorite number? Yeah, every German has a favorite number and it's always the same. It's a beautiful one. But this can only be answered by an English speaker. So it's quite a sophisticated joke. But let me see a couple of answers. Sabrina has been in Germany for a long time. It's good. Yeah, good, I'm happy. I have alte Hasen here, old rabbits, old hares. They all know it, the answer. It's of course 9. Yeah, and if you don't get this joke, that's fine. It should get clear during this presentation. It's the main aim of this presentation, that you understand German humor. Yeah? It's not too difficult. Today I will talk about 3 kinds of numbers, and they are called, like you see there. I give you examples, so you've seen these numbers. You might not be aware of their name, especially not in German. I'll explain those in a bit as well. So we start with the cardinal numbers. Cardinal is a word that comes from hinge, so the hinge of a door. This is something that around which kind of everything circulates somehow, or that's very essential, at least for doors or things that open and close. And therefore it stands for something that's very essential. So a cardinal in the church is a very essential person, obviously. So essential numbers means these are the ones that you cannot avoid. You have to deal with them. They're pretty simple, and hopefully you've come across them. I will read them once very thoroughly to you, very clearly, but you don't have to stop the video and rewind and go there again. You can simply enter them into any translation software like Google Translate or DeepL, and after writing the number 1, the cipher 1, you just click play and it will say it in beautiful German. So, but let me read them to you. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Notice the Z and the X. 6, 7, 8, 9, 0. I put the 0 at the end for design reasons. It's of course the very first number here. Question is whether it is a number, but let's assume. Now, I always like to compare languages, in our case English and German, just to show the similarities, because anything you notice that's similar or that's different will help you to remember how it's written, how it's pronounced, and what is related. So if you take a look at the 1, well, they only got the N in common, but if you take a look at the E and the I, if you put the I to the left a bit so it touches the E, you get what you find in the second column here, the 2, what I wrote as 2. So basically the E and the I can be combined into an O. Yeah, it looks like Japanese or Chinese, so it's a nice little gimmick. So you have O and S, yeah, one night stand, 1, very easy to remember. 2, and on the telephone, because 2 and 3 sound so similar, you sometimes say 2. So it is pronounced like a V. So basically 2 is the same word as 2. And you see this Z turning into a T is something we have continuously with 12 and 20. In Germany we'll find these in a minute. 3 and 3 is the same word. The D turns into TH. It's just because English speakers use their tongue differently than Germans, but it's the same letter. So you have 3 and 3, and the vowels always behave a little bit erratic, but it's the same word. I hope you see that. 4 and 4 both have in common that you don't really pronounce the R at the end. Yeah, 4, not 4. Nobody says that. 4, 4. And the V in German is pronounced like an F, as you hopefully have found out, and that you can also hear or see here. 5, 5. The English V sometimes is also pronounced like an F. Very simple, very basic. I like the zwo information. That's something not many people actually realize. Here's another one, sechs. Again, the CHS in many words, if it's at the end or if it's part of a syllable, it's always like an KS, like six. Six is ks. Same here, sechs. And be careful that you pronounce it sechs, because if you pronounce it like English, 6 in German, you would get sex. It's also lovely, but has nothing to do with the number 6 at all. Yeah? So sex and sex are two different things. Just keep that in mind. One embarrassing mistake will definitely ingrain that into your brain. You see 7 and 7, they are pretty much the same. The B and the V, if you speak Spanish, you will have learned that the B in Spanish, they pronounce very softly at times. Yeah, so they would say sieben, sieben. So it's very close to 7 already. Not much to remember. And acht is a different kind of CH again. Yeah, and if you look at GH below it, the G almost looks like a C, so they certainly have the same origin. Acht, 8. In English, unfortunately, the GH is silent. Otherwise, it would be easy for you to pronounce that. Sorry. 9, here we come to the joke. Yeah, 9 and 9, they just fiddle around with the vowels a bit, but the N's are there. There's even an E in there, very close. And null is the 0, but there is also the word nil, and I'm not really sure when they use it in English. If you know it, write it in the chat. I would say maybe in scientific context. If you play tennis, they would use love. So there's different words for 0 in English, but for German, as far as I'm informed, there's only null, and it is the same as nil. So these were the very basics, hopefully not too new. Now let's go to the more interesting stuff. 11 in German, that's elf. Like an elf in Lord of the Rings. There were 11 elves in that play, very clearly. And then comes 12. And keep in mind that the German W is pronounced like a double V. Yeah, so 12, 12. So it's more pronounced like a V than anything else. Yeah, and you already should recognize the similarity. Like you should see how similar it is to English, but I'll look at this. So these arrows here, they indicate how you read the number. You basically read 1, and well, this is wrong. You actually read from the right to the left already here. My apologies, I just realized that. Because 12 very clearly starts with the zwei part, so the arrow should go in the different direction. We get to these two in a bit. So 13 is basically the same like in English, 13, just that we use 13, and we read from the right to the left. But you do the same in English, so here that's absolutely not a problem. Yeah? 14, 15, and so on. I will not add the arrows anymore, but you read from the right to the left like in English. No problem here. 16 would be logical. Unfortunately, 16, it kind of puts a knot in a German's throat, and we don't want that. And by the way, these are written together. I just put them apart for looks. Yeah, 13 is one word, and any 10 word is one word. So in order to pronounce 16 properly, you have to kill the S, and then it turns into 16. The soft, like in ich or Michael. Beautiful name. Yeah, Michael. And the sh, you you have to practice a little bit. It's a little bit like a sh without the sh. Yeah, so without the S. But this is not a pronunciation lesson, so I hope that you find other resources that help you with this. Yeah, 17 would be logical, but maybe you know what the real number is. And that's 17. 17. The B at the end of a syllable in this case the end of the sieb turns into a P in your ear, not in writing. So 17, 17, so we would say 17 in German. 18, 19, and Arabi. So all these are Arabic numbers, which explains why they are read from the right to the left. And again, a little reminder, 11 and 12 are also read from the right to the left. You just don't know it yet. And all of these are written in one word. This is really just design. You can see that maybe best in 16 and 17. Yeah. Now, 11 and 12, beautiful numbers. So you might wonder why they are so illogical, why they stick out. So elf, 11, you see hopefully the similarity. It even has the word elf in it. And 11 comes from the words ein in German. In English it might be similar, live. And live is not life, but I'll tell you in a minute what it means. 12, you see similarity, comes from zwei, live. It's some kind of old German, very likely. Back in the days, there were different variants of this language. And ein live means one left. So basically, after counting to 10, and you had one lying around, that was the one left, the 11th piece of money, maybe, or cookies, whatever you want to eat. And zwei live then therefore logically means there's two left. I'm not sure why they didn't continue this. Yeah, they could have done trelev, maybe in French, tres, they've done that, but I'm not sure whether that's related. Yeah, so that's the beauty behind 11 and 12. Hope you remember that, one left. Yeah, a left, 11, and twee left, 12. So the tenors, just quickly, if they were logical, you would just put sich at the end, and please pay attention to my pronunciation, sich. For example, in number 40, that's the first regular one you will see in a minute, 40, 50. The first three are actually not what they seem. So if they were logical, they would look like this, 10, 20, 30. Unfortunately, German tongues are sensitive body parts, so we have to modify them a bit for the Germans to sound natural. So of course there is no such thing as 1T. It turns into 10, which you know is the same as 10. Yeah, so 10 is basically the same. You remember that the Z in zwei turned into a T for 2. So 10 is the same word. 20, actually you will see, turns into 20, and you see the similarity. The Z turns into T again. How beautiful. 3, and the one thing that's, let me go back, you see with the 30, for whatever reason it's difficult to say 30 would have worked, but at one point Germans just said, nah, we have to add a little bit of spice to these and just turn the one random number in the middle into sich, 30. So this is the normal S for you. It's a sharp S, always without sound. So let's go back. So it turns into 30, 40, 50. Sorry, I actually, I translated it literally. 50 in German is 50. So in English here, you have a modification that we don't have in German. Yeah? See how they are related nicely. The next tenors, again, just what could have been if someone with a logical brain had set up the numbers 60, 70, 80, 90, 100, but again, you don't say 60, you say 60, as you see in the upper right corner now. And for 70, you say 70, 70, like you did with 17, 17. Good. So you can print this out and put it somewhere if you need to, but the best way to practice these is just to continuously count or say them out loud in your brain, or even out loud on the street, as long as there's not too many people looking at you. Or read license plate numbers, which is what I did in the foreign languages a lot of times. Yeah, it's a bit random, adds a bit of randomness to the whole exercise. And of course, if you practice these, you want to know whether what you pronounce is actually proper German and is recognizable. And there is a beautiful tool that you can use, and I'll show that to you later. That's called speech notes, like the speech and the notes, .co, not com. And that tool, like DeepL, like Google, recognizes your voice. So if you click the record button and the language is set to German, you say 10 or sehen, it might recognize you. It's not too precise because it wants to please you, so it will very likely show you a correct answer even if you pronounce it pretty off. But if that tool doesn't understand you, that means you need help, yeah, or you need to improve your pronunciation for sure. And if the tool understands you, very likely Germans will understand you as well. One last thing regarding the 100, little bonbon. I did some research. I always love to find out where words come from, and 100 is so different. Hunda, I've read, and again, this might not be hardcore science, and the internet is also not 100% reliable, but I like the story behind it. So Hunda meant, back in the days, fairly big number, and I think we can all agree that 100 is a fairly big number. Yeah. So that's the base of 100. At one point they said, okay, let's use this for a very specific number, the one with the 2 zeros. And again, these are all words written together. This is really just design. Yeah. And this is not a writing course either, but I want you to understand how they actually work together. A couple of specialties that I want to share. So 20, that's actually indeed read from left to right. Yeah, because you start with the zwan, which is related to the zwei in the beginning. But as soon as you go to 21, the English stay with the 21. They start from left to right and stick to that until the very end. The Germans go Arabic again, and they start reading from the right to the left. And they say 1 and 20, 2 and 20, 3 and 20, 21, 22, 23, and so on. And you see these are all written together. Yeah, they can become very long, and which is why you do not really write them out. You usually use the numbers on the left. Yeah, I'm not sure whether you call them Ziffern, ciphers in English. And one way to actually really get the hang of this is by really counting them and maybe clapping along. I try to clap not too loud. Yeah, so be prepared. 21, 22, 23, 24, and so on. And that will help you. If you use your hands, that really adds a physical note to things. Yeah. Now there's one special number again, is the 101, the 101. I didn't color the eins, but you get it. So 101, in English you would say, well, you could also possibly say 101, right? So in German you could say 101, but I would say all Germans simply say 101, 102, 103. You start from scratch with the counting. It's just the 100 in the beginning. And here you, I should have done 121. How would you say 121? I'll just give you a second to think about it. Yeah, because it gets interesting. 121, that is a mixture between Western and, well, I'm not sure whether it's all Eastern, let's say Arabic culture here. Yeah, so 121 would be 121. So you start on the left, you skip to the very right, and then you go to the middle. Yeah, it gets interesting. So if you feel like a challenge, just count from 101 to 199. Yeah, in English it's pretty consistent. You read from the left to the right, 121.